You are probably eating something right now that your body was never designed to handle. Maybe it is a snack. Maybe it is a meal that took 30 seconds to prepare. Maybe it is something sweet, something salty, something crunchy in a way that feels deeply satisfying for reasons you cannot explain. You did not choose that feeling. It was installed in you by a force far older than memory, far older than language, far older than civilization itself. The story of what ancient humans actually ate is not just a story about food. It is a story about you, right now, in this moment, and why so much of what you crave, what you fear, and what you cannot stop doing makes perfect sense once you trace it back far enough. Here is where it starts. For the vast majority of human history, your ancestors woke up every single morning not knowing if they would eat that day, not worrying about it, not feeling guilty about skipping breakfast, actually not knowing whether food would exist. That uncertainty shaped everything. It carved itself into the deep architecture of your nervous system, your hormones, your gut, your brain, and it never left. Anthropologist Herman Poncer spent years studying the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer groups on Earth, and what he found shattered nearly every assumption modern science had made about ancient diets. The Hadza do not eat on a schedule. They do not eat the same things 2 days in a row. Some days are abundant, some days are almost nothing, and their bodies, far from struggling with this, appear to thrive on it. Your ancestors lived like this for roughly 2 million years. 2 million years of not knowing. 2 million years of searching, foraging, hunting, failing, succeeding, and searching again. That is the baseline. That is the normal your body still expects. So what did they actually eat? The honest answer is everything. Or more precisely, everything they could find. Your ancestors were not carnivores. They were not vegans. They were not anything with a name you would recognize today. They were extreme opportunists, and that flexibility, that willingness to eat almost anything, is the single trait that made your species survive when dozens of others did not. In the African savanna, where much of early human evolution happened, your ancestors ate tubers, roots pulled from the ground, wild berries, seeds, insects, honey, whenever they could find it, which was rare. Small animals when they could catch them. Large animals when the opportunity appeared, though this was less common than most people imagine. Researcher Richard Wrangham at Harvard has argued for decades that the single most transformative food technology in human history was not agriculture or even hunting. It was fire. Cooking fundamentally changed what your ancestors could extract from their food. It unlocked calories that raw plants and raw meat simply do not deliver efficiently. It allowed your gut to shrink and your brain to grow, because cooking pre-digests food before it even enters your body. That is not a metaphor. That is biology. Your brain today consumes roughly 20% of all the energy your body produces. That is an extraordinary demand for a 3-pound organ. Fueling it required a caloric upgrade that raw food alone could not provide. Fire did that. Cooked food did that. And your digestive system, compared to other primates, is noticeably shorter as a result. Optimized for high-quality, cooked, calorie-dense food, rather than the long fermentation process a raw food diet requires. You are, at a biological level, a cooking animal. Cooking did not just change what you ate. It changed what you are. Now here is where things get strange. If your ancestors were eating such a varied diet, roots, berries, insects, occasional meat, cooked food over fire, why does modern nutrition research keep producing such contradictory results? Why does every decade seem to produce a new answer about what humans are supposed to eat? Keto one decade, low fat the next, high protein, Mediterranean, carnivore. Part of the answer is that there is no single ancestral diet. There never was. The Inuit near the Arctic Circle survived for thousands of years on almost entirely fat and protein, with almost no plant matter at all. Meanwhile, populations in tropical regions ate diets that were 60 to 80% carbohydrate. Both groups were healthy. Both groups were thriving. This drove researchers like Tim Noakes and David Katz into years of heated professional disagreement because both of them were right about different populations. The deeper answer is this: your body was built to be flexible. Metabolic flexibility, the ability to switch between burning carbohydrates and burning fat depending on what is available, was not a bonus feature. It was the core survival mechanism. You were engineered, over millions of years of selection pressure, to make the most of whatever was in front of you and to store the rest. That storage mechanism is the part that is quietly destroying modern health. When food was scarce, which it almost always was, your ancestors' bodies responded by storing every available calorie as fat, lowering the metabolic rate, and triggering intense cravings for the highest calorie foods available: sweet things, fatty things, dense, rich, calorie-packed things. Because in the ancestral environment, those things were rare. Honey appeared once in a while. Fatty meat was a windfall. Fruit was seasonal. The craving for sweetness was not a design flaw. It was a perfectly calibrated signal to consume something valuable before it disappeared. You still have that signal, completely intact, exactly as it was 200,000 years ago. The problem is what surrounds you now. Researcher Kevin Hall at the National Institutes of Health ran one of the most revealing food studies in recent memory. He put participants in a controlled environment and gave them access to either ultra-processed foods or whole, minimally processed foods, matched for calories, sugar, fat, and protein on paper. What happened was striking. When given access to ultra-processed foods, participants spontaneously ate 500 more calories per day. Not because they were told to, not because they were hungry in any traditional sense, because something in the texture, the flavor engineering, the combination of fat and salt and sugar bypassed every satiety signal their bodies produced. Your ancient hunger system was never designed to fight a food scientist. It was designed to find the sweetest berry in a forest, to eat as much fatty marrow as possible before the other predators arrived, to consume everything it could when the opportunity appeared, because the next opportunity might be days away. That system, meeting a world where engineered food is available at every hour in unlimited quantities, is producing outcomes your ancestors could not have predicted, and your body has no framework to resist. But here is the counterintuitive part. Knowing this does not mean the solution is to go back. You cannot eat like a Hadza hunter-gatherer. You live in a different world with different demands and different constraints. And frankly, the romanticized version of the ancestral diet, the idea that ancient humans were universally lean, healthy, and thriving, is not entirely accurate either. Anthropologist Kristen Hawkes has documented how forager societies still struggled with injury, infection, food insecurity, and the brutal unpredictability of life without modern medicine. The point is not nostalgia. The point is understanding. When you reach for something sweet at 9 o'clock at night, even though you are not hungry, that is not weakness. That is a 2 million-year-old survival program running exactly as designed. When you cannot stop eating something even when you are full, that is your ancient body doing the only thing it knows, storing for the scarcity that, in your nervous system's deep memory, is always coming. When you feel inexplicably better after a meal that is simple, whole, and unprocessed, you are giving your body something it recognizes at a cellular level, something it was built for. You did not choose the architecture of your hunger, but you now know where it came from. The food on your plate today is the latest chapter in a story that started 2 million years ago. Every craving, every compulsion, every moment of eating past fullness is your ancient self doing exactly what kept your lineage alive long enough for you to exist. The question is not why you eat the way you do. The question is whether you want to keep letting a system built for scarcity run in a world that never runs out. Tonight, when you reach for that thing you always reach for, remember, you are not broken. You are ancient, and ancient things can be understood. Understanding them is the first step to choosing something different.